Discover the incredible life-changing moment a kind old lady shelters 15 Hells Angels 100 bikers in a tiny bakery during a blazing winter storm. Winter had roared into Sarah's small Midwestern town, swallowing it in white fury. Snow whipped through the streets, igniting panic and isolation among the townsfolk. They were scared, and Sarah, a 68-year-old widow with her silver hair pulled back into a bun, watched from her bakery. She loved her little community and wanted to sprinkle them with hope through her perfect pies. Yet, her heart felt as cold as the wind outside, where the once warm laughter had been replaced by whispers of fear. In the eyes of many, the infamous Hells Angels were not men but monsters, marauding the town on their roaring machines, bringing with them the dark shadows of judgment and distrust, but her heart thudded with a memory of her late husband's strength. Love over fear, he had often said, and as the first thunder of motorcycle engines vibrated in the distance, Sarah felt that strength bubbling inside her again. With a determined nod, she turned the open sign around. The door creaked open against the howling winds, ushering in the chill and a frightful sight, 15 leather-clad bikers shaking off the snow, faces stern, fear gripped the townsfolk. What is she doing? They whispered, sniping glances at her. Yet, within Sarah's heart beat the rhythm of hospitality, a gentle reminder that beneath the fearsome exteriors lay humanity. Come in, she called, her voice breaking the icy tension. The bikers exchanged glances, hesitation hanging in the air like snowflakes. As the last biker entered, Sarah smiled warmly, welcoming them to sit by the oven. She knew the power of pie and the magic of a cozy bakery. She served slices of her beloved apple pie, the aroma wrapping around them like a comforting blanket. The room began to soften as laughter chased away anxiety. It's amazing, isn't it? One of the bikers said, grinning, eyes sparkling as they spooned pie into their mouths. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Amid their jovial chatter, Jack, a soft-spoken veteran with an unmistakable vulnerability in his eyes, caught Sarah's gaze. He recounted tales of his war days, each word revealing the thorns of his past. They talked of losses and hers, and suddenly, the pie wasn't the only thing warming them. It was an unexpected camaraderie, a rippling bond that transcended age and community judgment. Outside, snow continued to blanket the town in silence, yet within the bakery, walls dissolved, revealing hearts that had been shackled by misconceptions. With every shared story, the bitterness began to melt away, voices lifting into the cozy air. As the storm raged on, Sarah felt courage surge. She had opened her doors to those labeled as others, making them family. But soon, the storm would lift. Would her town embrace the warmth they had found inside, or would the icy grip of prejudice seize them once more? The question nestled in her heart like the last unbaked pie on her counter. The sun would eventually shine again, but Sarah knew it would take more than a shining day to melt the deep-rooted frost. Would the warmth of unity prevail? The wind howled outside, a relentless beast still fighting against the warmth that ignited within Sarah's bakery. The laughter of bikers carried through the cozy room, mingling with the buttery aroma of pie. Jack had transitioned smoothly into a storyteller, his eyes lighting up as the other bikers leaned in, fascinated. They hung on his every word like children captivated by a bedtime tale. Sarah poured coffee, her hands steady despite the brewing storm outside. She could feel the weight of judgment still lingering among the townsfolk, edging closer as they dared to gaze through the foggy windows. But as she watched the bikers, their camaraderie breaking free from chains of stigma, she felt a swell of hope. Perhaps, just perhaps, they could all find warmth together. What was it like? One biker, tattooed arms crossed casually, asked Jack. You've seen some serious stuff, huh? Jack chuckled softly, a hint of sadness tracing his smile. The war taught me that life is both precious and fleeting. You take care of the people you love, no matter how rough it gets. The room quieted, the grease of laughter giving way to a contemplative silence. Sarah felt her own heart ache, not just for Jack but for those outside, who missed this beauty blossoming inside her safe haven. How do you cope with it? One biker questioned, and it wasn't just directed to Jack anymore but to the whole group. You experience loss, and then what? You just keep riding? Jack looked up, his gaze penetrating. You ride, you keep moving, but you also remember. You share, like we are now. You find family, wherever you can. Even in the unlikeliest places. The room buzzed with thoughtful nods. Sarah, still a humble observer, couldn't help but think of the pie cooling on the counter. She had created this circle, weaving together various lives, each sharing their stories like slices of her famous apple pie. One by one, they were starting to connect beyond their leather and fear. Suddenly, the door swung open again, and a bitter wind rushed in, carrying the sharpness of the outside world. Two town deputies stood framed in the door, their faces taut, stirring tension in the air. What is going on here, Sarah? One deputy barked, his eyes glancing over the scene, evaluating the unwelcomed guests. Just a little gathering, she replied firmly, her heart racing. She stood tall, her spirit unfazed. We're all just sharing stories over pie. The bikers grew silent, a collective breath held as all eyes shifted to Sarah. It was a moment suspended between fear and understanding, where the old woman's courage could either uplift or doom them. Would the warmth of the bakery be enough to shield them against the cold presence outside? One big happy family, huh? The second deputy sneered. Don't you think that's inviting trouble? The laughter from moments before simmered down, the atmosphere thick and choking. Sarah felt the walls closing in. Her heart pounded. Did they just take a step forward to break barriers, or had her act of kindness put them all at risk? As the bikers braced themselves, tension hung heavy in the air, ready to snap. What would happen next? Would this cozy gathering survive the scrutiny of ignorance, or would the frost of prejudice seize them all? The warmth and unity they found together now hung in precarious balance. Is this the moment that will change everything? Sarah thought, determining in that heartbeat that she would fight for her belief in possibilities. She cleared her throat, ready to turn the tide. But would her voice be enough against the storm brewing outside? Sarah took a deep breath, her mind racing as she faced the deputies. The warmth that had filled her bakery moments ago felt like it was slipping away, replaced by the cold shadow of authority. Yet she refused to let fear strip away her courage. Isn't it better to gather here than out there causing trouble? She asked, her voice steady, challenging the oppressive silence that hung in the air. These people are family, sharing stories and comfort. That's not trouble, it's community. The first deputy scoffed, his willingness to listen all but evaporating. Family? With those? He gestured disdainfully at the bikers, muscles tensed in what felt like an unearned display of power. But Sarah saw resilience in her visitors. They were not the rowdy daredevils the townsfolk had painted them to be, they were survivors, some even carrying scars that felt like chapters of a heavy book. Jack held her gaze, urging her to keep fighting. Look, we're all just human here, another biker finally spoke up, his voice cautious but firm. We come from different backgrounds, sure. But we laugh, we cry, and we support each other. Isn't that what this town should stand for? Sarah could feel the tide shifting, even if it was just a tiny ripple. This wasn't just about her place anymore, it was about something deeper, the bond of understanding connecting all their hearts. The second deputy's face softened slightly, his bravado fading into uncertainty. Does this happen often? More than you realize, Sarah answered, her eyes sparkling fiercely with conviction. You think these bikers are just trouble? Well, you should try listening to their stories instead of judging them on their jackets. As she spoke, the room echoed with quiet murmurs of agreement from the bikers, but the deputies remained stoic, their brows furrowing in thought. The first deputy exchanged a glance with his partner. You realize if we leave you to it and something goes wrong, it's on us? This is my bakery, Sarah replied, pride swelling in her chest. And I'll take that risk. I'd rather have my community thrive in unity than live in fear. Don't you want that for this town as well? A heavy silence filled the room as each person weighed her words. The laughter, the stories, even the pie, it all seemed to hang in the balance while the deputies processed what they were witnessing. For a moment, it almost felt like the storm outside was receding, the wind calming just a bit as if it too were listening. Finally, the first deputy sighed. Fine. Just keep it down. And if we hear any trouble, he let the last word hang in the air like a ghost. With that, they stepped back out into the cold, leaving Sarah's bakery to breathe again. The bikers erupted into a mix of laughter and relief, the energy rekindled with vibrant warmth. You did it, Jack said, his eyes gleaming. You stood your ground. Sarah felt tears prick at her eyes as pride coursed through her veins. We did it. Together. And as the stories flowed once more, filling the space with exuberance, she couldn't shake the feeling that they had all crossed a threshold, but just as she began to feel victory, a sharp knock resounded through the door, louder this time, almost frantic. Sarah turned, her heartbeat quickening again. What could possibly follow this moment? Would the world outside intrude again, or could they finally embrace the warmth they had fought for? The once thick air of the bakery felt charged, and she knew whatever was coming next had the potential to change everything again. The sharp knock echoed again, reverberating through the bakery, shattering the moment of triumph into a million anxious fragments. Sarah's heart raced. She'd just faced down authority and fortified her community, but now something felt off, an energy shift that set her instincts on edge. Jack moved closer to her, eyes wide with concern as he gestured for silence. The laughter in the room faded into a nervous hush. Everyone turned to the door, anticipation hanging thick in the air. Was it the deputies again? Had they returned with a vengeance? Maybe it's a customer, one of the bikers whispered, though the doubt hung in the words. No one truly believed that. This was different. Another knock, more impatient this time, a plea wrapped in urgency. Without thinking, Sarah stepped forward, fingers trembling as she reached for the handle. She drew in a deep breath, straightened her back, and pulled the door open. A gust of cold air blasted into the warm bakery, and there stood an elderly woman, skin wrinkled like a well-loved leather jacket, her gray hair tucked under a colorful scarf. The frantic look in her eyes contrasted sharply with the ordinary sight of her simple dress. Please, she gasped, breathless. Help my son. He's in trouble. Sarah felt the color drain from her face. The warmth of the bakery suddenly felt like a distant memory. What happened? She asked, stepping aside to let the woman in. The old lady entered hurriedly, her presence almost disarming, but frantic energy clung to her. He was heading into town and got caught on the wrong side of an accident. I just got the call, and now I don't know where to go. Please. I need someone to help him. Panic rippled through the bakery. The bikers glanced at one another, conflicted. Did they get involved? This felt heavy, like a burden almost too great to bear. But the urgency in the woman's voice was undeniable. Jack assured her, "You're safe here. We'll help you." Thank you. Thank you. The woman cried, clasping her hands together as she began to tremble. His name is Jacob. He's a good boy. I can't lose him. The mention of Jacob sparked something in Sarah's heart. Faint memories floated up, times when she'd been lost, times when community had pulled her back. Could they do the same for this woman's son? What do we need to do? She asked, looking at the bikers, who were now quietly stepping forward, their earlier fears transformed into a fierce determination. One biker nodded. We'll ride. We know these roads. Let's find him. A spark of unity ignited among the group. The laughter from moments before felt like a distant echo as adrenaline took over. Each of them wanted to do something, anything. The old woman's eyes shimmered with gratitude as she became surrounded by these unlikely protectors. Sarah felt the warmth begin to swell again. It was small but powerful, igniting in her heart a sense of purpose she hadn't realized was missing. As they gathered around, formulating a plan, she realized they weren't just two separate worlds anymore, they were one. An eclectic mix of leather jackets, pride, and old-fashioned compassion. They were bound together by a thread of shared humanity, but before they could step out into the storm, a thunderous roar approached, shaking the bakery's walls. The sound grew louder, an engine echoing ominously against the wind. Sarah held her breath, anxiety gripping her once more. "Is that?" Jack started, eyes darting toward the door. The noise crescendoed, and for a split second, Sarah's thoughts spiraled. Who or what was coming now? Would this deli of dreams collapse under yet another weight, or could they finally confront what lay ahead together? The door slammed back open. The door burst open, and a heavy-set man flanked by a row of leather-clad bikers filled the doorway. They shifted on their bikes, engines rumbling beneath them like a storm gathering strength. The sudden shift in atmosphere sent a wave of uncertainty through the bakery. Sarah's heart raced again, this time for a different reason. "Whoa there!" the leader exclaimed, raising a hand in greeting yet scanning the room as if searching for trouble. "We heard the commotion. Thought we'd check it out." Jack stepped forward, shoulders squared but not overly aggressive. "We're just helping this woman," he said, gesturing to the elderly lady who appeared even more fragile in the presence of this larger-than-life crew. The bikers exchanged glances, their faces a mix of concern and curiosity. After a long pause, the leader, a rugged figure with a snow-white beard and tattoos tracing stories across his skin, nodded. "We ain't here to cause problems. Just wanted to see what was happening." The old woman, still clutching her scarf, turned to the newcomers with pleading eyes. "My son, Jacob, he's caught in an accident out on the highway. I need help to find him, please." The atmosphere shifted. Where uncertainty had hung moments before, a sense of solidarity began to blossom. The leader stepped inside and motioned for more bikers to join him, filling the small bakery with a palpable energy. "We'll help you," he declared. "Let us not waste time. Greg, grab the maps." One of the bikers rushed to retrieve supplies while others began exchanging urgent whispers and assessing their motorcycles. It was a well-choreographed dance, business as usual for them, yet the stakes felt profoundly real. As Sarah watched these imposing figures take charge, a warm swell of camaraderie washed over her. They weren't just a gang, they were protectors, rallying around someone in need. She felt her own resolve strengthen, pounding in time with the revving engines. "Are you sure?" the old woman asked, tears glistening in her eyes. "You'll really help?" The bikers nodded in unison, like a chorus. The leader placed a reassuring hand on the woman's shoulder. "We ride for each other. You're a part of this family now." "All right, then," Sarah said, her voice steady despite the chaos within. "Let us figure out a plan." Maps spread across the kitchen table, each biker leaning over the paper, pointing out the quickest routes and safety spots. The atmosphere pulsed with urgency and spirit. This unlikely group was becoming something greater, unified by a purpose that transcended their backgrounds. As they outlined their impending journey, Sarah caught herself glancing at the colorful bikers, eyes glinting with determination. It struck her how life could take such unexpected turns. Just hours ago, they had been preparing for a regular day at the bakery, and now, they were gearing up for a rescue mission. But as she prepared to step out into the unknown with this newfound band of allies, a dissonant rumble broke through their camaraderie. A screech of tires echoed from outside, sending jolts of fear through the group. Jack exchanged a worried glance with Sarah. "What was that?" The elderly woman tensed, eyes wide. A shadow passed over the door, blocking the light. The air thickened with tension. "Maybe it's the deputies," one biker murmured, voice tight with tension. "No," Sarah replied, feeling an urgent dread. "It could be something worse." They gathered together, a circle of solidarity, but uncertainty loomed. What could be waiting outside? As footsteps approached with a purposeful tempo, Sarah took a deep breath. This moment could change everything. They stood on the brink, fates intertwined by shared courage. What would emerge from the darkness and shatter their unity? Would they face their fears together, or would it all fall apart at the critical moment? The door swung open suddenly, revealing a dark figure that seemed to absorb the light from the bakery. The silence in the room thickened. The bikers instinctively stepped closer together, a wall of leather and muscles ready to confront whatever threat lay before them. Then, the figure stepped into the dim light. It was a man in a dark coat, the edges frayed and worn, creased lines etched deep into his face. He looked around, taking in the bustling scene before him, the bakers, the bikers, and the distressed old woman whose eyes reflected desperation. "What's going on here?" he demanded, his voice thick with gravel. There was something in the way he spoke, a challenge embedded in his words. Jack pushed forward, keeping his tone steady. "We're helping this lady. Her son's in trouble, an accident on the highway. We're all heading out to find him." The man narrowed his eyes, skepticism swirling in the air. "And you think you're just gonna ride out and save the day? How do you even know he needs help?" Before anyone could respond, the elderly woman spoke up, her voice shaky but resolute. "Jacob, he wouldn't just not call me. He always checks in. Something must be wrong." The passion in her voice cut through the tension, making the bikers exchange hesitant glances. The dark-coated man shifted his weight, processing her words. Behind him, the shadows felt almost alive, whispering doubts and fears. But then a flicker of recognition crossed his face. "I've seen the wreck, it's bad," he said quietly. "Past the old diner, just off the highway. You'll need to be careful." The tension shifted ever so slightly as the bikers rallied around the elderly woman, drawing more strength from her resolve. The leader stepped forward, looking the man straight in the eyes. "We're not going anywhere without her son. If you know where he is, share more with us." In that moment, the air was thick with the weight of urgency. Sarah looked around, her heart pounding against her chest. Determination radiated off the bikers, and she was swept into their current. She could feel her fear dissipating, replaced by a fierce need to act. "Let us do this together," Jack said, his voice strong, gripping her hand tightly as if to anchor them against the storm brewing outside. The man reluctantly provided more details, describing the highway's sharp turns and blind spots. Sarah wrestled with her emotions. She had come here to help make some pastries, yet here she was, caught in a whirlwind of danger and compassion. Could she really step outside her comfort zone? "Okay, let us move," Jack said, his gaze steady, inspiring confidence. One by one, the bikers mounted their bikes, revving engines that sounded like a rallying cry. The room filled with a sensory explosion, the scent of flour and sugar mingling with engine oil and adrenaline. But as they prepared to leave, the dark-coated man suddenly shouted, "Wait! You can't take her." The elderly woman turned, bewildered. "Why? I have to go." "He's my son." "Because it's too dangerous," he replied, panic flickering in his eyes. "There are other people out there who could get hurt." "You don't understand." Sarah stepped forward, meeting the man's eyes. "We're not leaving her behind. She deserves to be there for her son. We can't let fear dictate our actions." The bikers nodded, a collective agreement forming among them. As the turmoil outside grew, the man held out a hand, torn. "Then I'm coming too," he said finally, but his voice was thick with hesitation. With one last glance exchanged between Jack and Sarah, they knew the stakes and what they were willingly stepping into. They mounted their bikes, engines roaring as they prepared to ride into the unknown. What awaited them on that highway? Would they truly find Jacob, or would they stumble upon something far darker than they had imagined? With a final rev of the engines, they surged forward, leaving the bakery behind and racing toward fate. The wind whipped against their faces as they carved through the night, the growl of the engines vibrating deep within their chests. Jack led the way, a fierce determination setting his jaw. Sarah felt alive on the back of the bike, fear transformed into adrenaline coursing through her veins. Behind them, the elderly woman clung tightly, her grip a silent statement of courage and hope. The headlights sliced through the darkness, revealing stretches of empty road ahead. Jack glanced back at Sarah, his brow furrowed, but his eyes shone with conviction. "We'll find him," he assured her. "We'll bring him back." As they approached the old diner, a sinking feeling settled in Sarah's stomach. An overturned car glinted ominously in the distance, the wreckage twisted and crumpled like a discarded toy. It felt like the world shifted in that moment, the impending sense of heartbreak hung in the air, crisp and real. Slow down, Jack, Sarah urged as they rolled closer. The rest of the bikers followed suit, engines idle, anticipation weighing heavier than the night itself. The elderly woman stepped off her bike and hesitated, taking a moment to steady herself before striding toward the wreck. Jack and Sarah exchanged glances, recognizing that fear was now tempered with resolve. She was all heart, and they were determined to stand by her as a united front. Rubble crunched underfoot as they approached the mangled vehicle. No lights illuminated the scene, just the moon casting an eerie glow on shattered glass and wreckage. Sarah's pulse raced as she noticed movement. A figure, mostly obscured by shadows, slumped against the side of the road. "It's him!" the elderly woman cried, her voice breaking as she sprinted toward the figure. "Wait!" Jack shouted, but it was too late. The woman reached her son, falling to her knees beside him. "Jacob! Oh, my sweet boy!" Her voice cracked as she shook him gently, searching for a response. The bikers watched, their hearts pounding like drums at a rally. Jack stepped forward, assessing the situation with a swift glance. Jacob looked unconscious but breathing, his face pale and marred with cuts. Within that moment, the air charged with urgency. Jack swiftly moved to kneel beside the mother, the rest of the bikers forming a supportive circle around them. "We need to call for help," he said, but there was no signal in this desolate stretch of highway. Sarah felt the panic rise within her. They had pushed through fears and doubts to get here, but now faced with a harsh reality, helplessness loomed large. The weight of the moment bore down on her, yet the sight of the two connecting mother and son stirred something deep inside. "Let me have a look at him," Jack said, a determination in his eyes. He gently nudged the mother's hands away and examined the injuries, noting the worry etched into her face. "He was thrown from the bike," she whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. "He's alive, ma'am," Jack reassured her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "But we need to keep him stabilized until help arrives." As panic brewed, Sarah pushed past the fear that lingered. "I can help. I know basic first aid. I can bandage his cuts." Jack met her gaze, surprised but grateful. "You're sure?" "Yeah." Her voice was steadier than she felt. She quickly knelt beside Jack, grabbing extra fabric from their bikes to keep Jacob warm and clean. As they worked, the night seemed to hold its breath. The other bikers stood by, ready to jump in if necessary, silent witnesses to an unfolding miracle of determination and community. The warmth of their shared purpose enveloped them, knitting a bond stronger than mere circumstance. "I didn't want her to find him like this," the dark-coated man murmured, standing behind them, emotions flickering across his face. "But, you're doing everything you can." They were on the edge of something raw and beautiful, courage intertwined in the face of tragedy. What felt like helplessness transformed into hope as Sarah caught a glimpse of Jacob's eyes fluttering, beginning to stir. "Stay with us, Jacob," she urged, gently tapping his face. "Help is coming." Would they be able to keep that flicker of life alive until aid arrived? Would the shadows ease away to reveal brighter tomorrows? As the darkness whispered around them, they clung to hope more than any of them realized. The air felt electric. Sarah kept her hands busy, moving deliberately as she worked on Jacob's cuts, her heart pounding in sync with the urgency of the moment. It was strange, amidst the chaos, she found focus and strength she didn't know she had. Each piece of fabric she layered, each gentle tap on Jacob's face, felt like a thread weaving their fates together. Jack was beside her, intent and commanding, instructing the others to keep watch. "No one leaves this spot. We don't know what's out there." The moonlight slanted off the wreckage, casting long shadows, but Sarah's eyes stayed on Jacob. His breath came shallow, but a spark of life flickered behind his eyelids. She leaned closer. "You're safe, Jacob. Just stay with us. Help is coming." The elderly woman cried softly, her fingers running through Jacob's hair, brushing back the blood matted against his scalp. "Please, just wake up," she pleaded, her voice a symphony of love and desperation. In that moment, Sarah felt the weight of every unspoken fear in the air. She could sense the other bikers around her, united in their quiet support, willing to share the burden of this family's pain. It wasn't just about Jacob now, it was about them all, strangers bound by the threads of humanity, each one of them pouring forth courage and compassion into the stillness of that night. Suddenly, Jacob's eyelids flicked open wider, revealing dilated pupils that searched for recognition. A groan escaped his lips, and Sarah's heart spiked with hope. "Hey, Jacob," she said softly, squeezing his hand. "Can you hear me?" "Mom?" He croaked, sounding lost and confused. "I'm right here." His mother grasped his hand, tears of relief streaming down her face. "You're going to be okay. You're not alone." A glimmer of understanding formed in Jacob's gaze. Expanding relief washed over the group. Jack moved in closer, checking Jacob's vitals steadily, whispering words of reassurance as if trying to pull him fully back from wherever he had drifted. Yet, amidst the relief, an unease settled in Sarah's stomach. How long could they hold on until help arrived? The isolation of this stretch of highway gnawed at her. Growing anxious, she turned to Jack. "What if we can't get to him in time? What if we have to believe in him?" Jack interrupted fiercely, his eyes igniting with fiery determination. "And we have to keep pushing. Just a bit longer." A moment passed, a fragile pause where hope and despair wove together, creating a tapestry of tension within the night. Sarah leaned closer, her breath mingling with Jacob's as she locked eyes with him. "You're stronger than this, Jacob. You have a family who loves you. Fight back against this." With her whispering encouragement, they all collectively exhaled. The wind held its response, as if nature itself sensed the intensity of their shared resolve. "Jack." A voice broke through the dark. "Over here." It was one of the bikers, his silhouette suddenly illuminated by an approaching set of headlights. A deep sigh of relief was palpable, the shadows were beginning to retreat. Sarah felt hope swell within her, mixing with newfound energy. They're finally here. But as they turned toward the light, Sarah's heart raced once more, for she realized what that mass of headlights meant. Were they there to help or to ignite an underlying threat unknown to them? Would the group be safe? The gathering shadows around the diner thickened as a swarm of bikes rolled into view, engines roaring a storm of chaos or a beacon of salvation. "Stay close," Jack warned, pulling Sarah and the elderly woman to his side. The moment of truth was at hand, and it hung thick in the night air like an unspoken promise, waiting for someone to break it. As the headlights drew nearer, Sarah's pulse quickened. She could see the silhouettes of the riders, their leather jackets reflecting the moonlight, looking like a pack of wolves descending upon them. The sound of revving engines filled the air, blending with the distant echo of sirens. It was a fierce mix of fear and anticipation. "Stay together." Jack's voice pierced the tension. He positioned himself protectively in front of the elderly woman and Jacob. The woman's hands trembled as she clutched her son's hand, a silent plea hanging between them. The first biker, a tall man with a bushy beard and tattoos winding up his arms, was the first to break formation. He slowed his heavy bike, taking in the scene before him. "What is going on here?" he called out, his voice booming yet carrying a note of concern. Jack stepped forward, addressing the newcomer with a steadiness he didn't entirely feel. "This guy needs help. We're waiting for the ambulance, but we don't know how much time we've got." The biker's gaze shifted from Jack to Jacob, and Sarah noticed the initial hardness in his eyes soften. "He's hurt bad. We'll get him fixed up." With quick and practiced movements, the riders dismounted and formed a circle around Jacob, their expressions surprisingly tender. This wasn't the intimidating bunch she had expected. One of them knelt next to Jacob, expertly assessing the situation, while another pulled out a med kit. "Stay with us, son," the biker spoke to Jacob, his voice like a soothing balm against the chaos. "You got a whole crew here looking out for you." Sarah could hardly breathe as hope began to seep back into her chest. Perhaps these riders were the lifeline they needed, a bridge between despair and possibility. "Mom?" Jacob murmured again, his voice fragile as he tried to focus on the faces surrounding him. "I'm right here," his mother replied, desperation morphing into a fierce protectiveness. "You're going to be okay, sweetie. Just hold on." As the biker tended to Jacob, the atmosphere shifted. Each passerby turned their worry into action, the collective energy of strangers transforming into a powerful force of support. One by one, the bikers shared stories, anecdotes, and encouragements, and even in moments of fear, laughter broke out, a reminder of life's resilience. "Hang tight, man. You're tougher than you look," another biker chimed in, giving Jacob a firm pat on the shoulder. Sarah felt her heart swell. This was a group of warriors, she realized. They fought battles of their own but had come together to help a family in need. The night hummed with possibility. Suddenly, a shrill siren cut through the air, growing louder. The ambulance was finally approaching. Relief engulfed Sarah like a warm blanket, but just as quickly, a new thread of apprehension worried at her mind. Was this chaos finally going to subside, or was it only the beginning of a far larger storm? "Get ready!" Jack shouted as the ambulance pulled up. The doors swung open, revealing paramedics eager to jump into action. But just then, a voice boomed from the shadows behind the diner. "Hey! What is going on here?" The mood shifted immediately, tension crackling like static. Sarah turned slowly to face the new arrival, her hands clammy, heart racing. Who was it? What did they want? Was this yet another threat in a night full of fear, or could it be a beacon for something brighter? The answer hung in the air as uncertainty thickened once more. What could possibly unleash itself now? From the shadows emerged a tall figure, his silhouette outlined by the struggling street lamp, a badge glistening on his chest. The deputies. Sarah's heart sank. "Just what we needed," she muttered. Jack and the bikers braced, creating a solid wall around Jacob, ready to protect him or anyone from the impending cold snap of authority. "Hey! Stop right there!" The lead deputy's voice thundered, commanding and harsh. Jack stepped forward, his fists clenched but heart steady. "We're helping an injured man. You wouldn't let him die, would you?" The words rang out, each syllable laced with urgency, mounting tension threading through the air. The paramedics moved in, already assessing Jacob's condition. One of them directed the concern-laden deputies away from the bikers and the wounded son. "We need space, folks," they called, the annoyance dripping from their tone. The elderly woman knelt beside Jacob, her fingers trembling as she gently brushed his hair back. "Please, he's my boy." Tears cascaded down her cheeks. "He needs help." The first deputy shifted, his expression faltering amidst the chaos, caught between the sight of the bikers rallying together and the demand to uphold the law. "What is going on here?" He barked again, wrestling with the reality of it all. Jack didn't skip a beat. "These people are helping. They don't deserve your wrath, they deserve your respect. They rode out to save him." His voice trembled between desperation and powerful attachment, stirring the deputy's sense of humanity. The biker with the bushy beard met the deputy's gaze, his stance softening just slightly. "Look, man, we're all in this together. We saw the wreck, and we came without hesitation. We care. That's what being human is about," he said, his gravelly voice reflecting the strength that lay in community. The deputy hesitated. Sarah could see the struggle in his eyes, as if he stood at a crossroads between duty and discernment. Surely, beneath the badges, they felt what she felt, the wild bond of unity. One of the paramedics turned, her voice cutting through the air like a soothing balm. "Get us some lights. We need to secure this whole area. And, officer, the boy needs an 4. Let us do our job." With a nod, the first deputy stepped back, reluctantly granting them space. The second, remaining skeptical, crossed his arms as if wrestling with his own expectation. Gradually, the heaviness started to lift, relief washing over them like a warm tide. Sarah's chest filled with hope. She looked around, witnessing an extraordinary tapestry of humanity. Bikers and townsfolk knitted together to support this family in distress. As the ambulance crew worked tirelessly, Sarah could almost feel the hearts melding, the laughter, stories, and kindness sparking into a glowing fire. Each person brought their courage, radiating strength. The barriers that bound them all began to dissolve like ice under sunlight, minutes felt like hours until they finally loaded Jacob into the waiting ambulance. The elderly woman clutched his hand tightly, tears of gratitude trailing down her wrinkled face as she repeatedly whispered, thank you to the bikers and paramedics alike." Sarah squeezed Jack's hand, a silent acknowledgement of their shared journey, their fight for compassion and bravery. "We did it," she breathed, her heart swelling with pride and promise. But then the first deputy approached them, revealing an unexpected warmth in his eyes. He cleared his throat. "Maybe we misjudged things are more complicated than they appear, huh? You all stuck together when it mattered, and that means something." Another deputy nodded, reluctantly admitting, "This town needs more kindness, not division." Stunned, Sarah felt her breath catch in her throat. This was the moment. The old woman and Jacob would steer them toward a brighter future, where acceptance and unity thrived like the warmth of Sarah's comfort food. Jack grinned, the tension easing from his shoulders. "Together, we can be better. Let us keep this going." And in that heartbeat, they all felt it, the shift of fear, opening pathways to understanding and bonds. "Let us share our stories, support one another," Sarah suggested, her voice carrying hope. "Every pie, every tale we tell can make a difference." Everyone nodded in agreement, new lines of connection woven into the heart of their community. One by one, they rallied around Jack's motorcycle to follow the ambulance. Full of purpose. As the group revved their engines and wheeled into the night, Sarah glanced toward the bakery still bathed in the golden glow of the lights. This wasn't just her bakery anymore, it was a sanctuary, a beacon for all lost souls. She would bake every pie with a heart now, knowing every slice could inspire hope. And the warmth of unity would guide them, igniting change in their small Midwestern town forever. And as they rode on, each of them transformed, Sarah felt the winds of change swirling with laughter and newfound friendship. This was only the beginning, a story of connection, compassion, and the courage to love over fear. If there's one last thing you need to do, it's this: subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will touch your heart. Leave a like now, hit that button to keep the momentum alive and feed the algorithm. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. I want to hear from you, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share the light. Only true fans understand how vital their support is for our beloved community. Let us keep spreading warmth.